Hey there, Agile Adventurer. Just a quick question. What if, for the price of a fancy coffee or half a pizza, you could unlock over 700 hours of the best Agile content on the planet? That's audio, video, e-courses, books, presentations, all that you can think of. But you can also join live calls with world-class practitioners and hang out in a flame war-free and AI slop-clean Slack with the sharpest minds in the game. Oh, and yes, you get direct access to me, Vasco, your Scrum Master Toolbox podcast. No, this is not a drill. It's the Scrum Master Toolbox membership. And it's your unfair advantage in the Agile world. So if you want to know more, go check out scrummastertoolbox.org/membership. That's scrummastertoolbox.org/membership. And check out all the goodies we have for you. Do it now. But if you're not doing it now, let's listen to the podcast. Hello, everybody. Welcome to one more week of the Scrum Master Toolbox podcast. And this week, joining us from beautiful Sydney in Australia is Alidad Hamidi. Hey, Alidad, welcome to the show.
Hey, Vasco. Good to be here.
Absolutely. So Alidad is a strategic advisor in human-centered transformation, focused on organizational design for autonomy, ownership, and impact. He calls himself a recovering agility coach, and I'm sure we'll talk more about that. And he draws on years across delivery and coaching roles to help build organizations truly fit for humans, resilient, adaptive, and designed for people, not just processes. So, Alidad, that was a short intro. Tell us a little bit more about yourself and how did you end up becoming a Scrum Master?
Thanks for that amazing introduction. I don't know if it was from LinkedIn or somewhere else, but I listened to you. I said, really, do I do all of that? And actually, I've been in this space of agility, organizational design, and the product delivery for a very long time. I won't go into the history because it's a long story. But to answer your specific question, I was a business analyst in a team that have adopted Agile for maybe 2 years, and one of the other teams in our company, their Scrum Master went on leave, and someone just asked me, look, while they're away, can you just do the Scrum Mastery of their team? And I said, oh yeah, that's easy. I see my Scrum Master. They just run these meetings and talk about feelings and everything. And of course, I would be able to do that. And that was the beginning. And then the moment I join as a Scrum Master, it changes everything for me. Like I see things from a very different perspective, started to see things from more of a human perspective, the interaction perspective, team boundaries. So other things become more important for me than it was before. Although, after that experience, I did go and become a product owner for a few years, but that stayed with me, that angle stayed with me. And then my very first contracting gig after that job was a Scrum Master role. So that's kind of a really, really brief history of how I ended up as a Scrum Master.
I definitely recognize that shift in perspective, right? Like from doing the things like, working with, as a business analyst in your case, for my case, I was a software developer and an architect. And that shift of starting to see the people side and how the interactions affect people, that is a really big shift in how we see software development, because we start to realize that it's actually a human system, not just a technology system. And I would say these days, I would call it a socio-technical system, so that it includes both the social aspects as well as the technological aspects. And when we shift that perspective, we try different things, but sometimes, as it so often happens when we try different things, they don't go so well, right? So today's Fail Monday here on the podcast, Alidad. So we want to explore one of those stories, a story of a difficult moment you had. And of course, we'll dive into what you learned later, but tell us that first that story, Alidad.
It was a pivotal moment for me. I joined the team as a contractor. I think it was my second contracting gig, and we've already had quite a lot of failures working with different teams, and learned a lot from those interactions. But I was working with a team. I joined a team as a consultant. They asked me to be the iteration manager for that team. It's the term that they use in Australia for a period of time because they didn't like the term Scrum Master. Um, so, uh, so there was this moment very early in my interaction with the team that I realized, the people who hired me, they told, oh, look, we're going through this transformation. We're moving all of our servers into cloud. And I think your teams also will be impacted. They haven't get back to us because they haven't had a team lead and a scrum master for a while, and the product owner is really busy. Can you just do some work around that? And I said, sure, I'm happy to do that. And just went to the team, and I said, well, this is what I'm hearing, guys. What's happening? What's the impact to you? They said nothing. And I said, all right, well, there's no impact. And I moved on. And then I started to talk to these other teams, and I realized, it's going to significantly impact this, because these guys, which I might actually talk to it later, they were maintaining about over $500 million business assets, or they were maintaining software that was generating that type of money. And they realized that a lot of their environments, as well as development and some of their more kind of a testing environment, is going to be hugely impacted. In other words, they won't be able to support the system. And I was shocked that why they are not saying anything. So I went back and I said, guys, this is what I heard. Tell me what is going on. And being a contractor, consultant, I was anxious. I'm here to get the job done, all of that pressure. But right before I start telling them what to do, all I did was I said, here is the list of all of the apps you're supporting. I draw it on a whiteboard. Back then, we were still using physical whiteboards. I said, tell me what is the impact? How do we use this? What is the impact? What do we need to do? And no one said anything. I was about to point to the more senior person in the team to say, you tell me, and give them the pen, right? I hold back. And that was probably the longest silence I ever had. It wasn't long. It was probably 1 minute. I looked at everyone and I waited and I waited and I waited, and no one said anything. And I said, okay, looks like you don't have any concerns. I'm heading back to my seat. And they were shocked because all of the managers before me, they were just telling them, you need to say this, do this. What do you think? What do you think? You're going to come up with. So, all right, you don't think there is an impact? Okay. And they were at shock. They were just looking at me. I said, one of them said, come back. I said, why? You're not saying anything. I don't know. Look, I'm new here. And they said, can you write it? I said, no, you write it. Here is the pen. They take the pen. The first person that come and write down the first impact, the whole thing gets started. And then there was a lot of interaction, conversation, debates, and they started to fill that whole board, and then we turned it into this. And look, there was massive impact, but they were used to a manager come and tell them what to do. They were used to someone is telling who needs to do what. And I didn't do it. So my initial failure, I just ignored it and I moved on. But the second time, the way I recovered from it, I purposefully designed a moment of silence. And I use that a lot going forward, especially when I work with other team coaches or leaders, and I help them to help their team to become high performing and self-managing. I specifically talk about staying in the anxiety of being silenced. Do not interrupt the team. Put the question there, let them come up with a solution. It is very hard, but very effective.
So I want to believe that one moment of silence was the only thing that really, kind of shifted the team's perspective and attitude. But I'm guessing it wasn't just that moment of silence, right? Like there's that moment of silence, which is maybe kind of the tipping point when the team finally takes ownership of their work. But what were some of the other things that you were doing meanwhile, ahead, before that moment of silence, that you think also had an impact during that moment of silence?
I think very, very basic things. Like I took them out for a lunch. We had a team lunch a few times before that. Once in a while, sometimes there was a moment that we kind of had a failure in one of our support tickets, and they were used to the manager come and shout at them. I actually stood and say, look, I went in and talked to the product owners, talked to the systems owner and the leaders. I said, we can either stop blaming the team or we can actually find out what's going on and get it fixed. They can fix it. They kind of started to see that I do care about them, right? I wasn't there to just tell them what to do and blame them, but it wasn't enough. Like, it was just the beginning. It was very early days in my working with the team. But I think I feel that helped them to begin to trust me. And when they see me just leaving, they kind of started to believe that I'm not there to tell them how to do their job, right?
And I think that storyline is really important for us to hear, because it's not just that one moment. It's not just that one action. It's all of the small interactions that we bring into the team, right? Because if you had, as opposite to that moment, if in the other moments you had been telling them what to do and organizing their work for them, of course, at that moment, they would be lost, right? Like they were lost in the end, but they would be even more lost, and they probably wouldn't take up the pen and start writing what they thought. So I think that this is a great story, because it highlights that moment of change, that tipping point, if you will. But as you just related, it also highlights that this is something we prepare from day one, right? Like the attitude we bring in has an impact in that moment of silence.
Absolutely. You mentioned socio-technical system. I don't know if we will get a chance to talk about it maybe in other days, but one of the approaches I specifically used a lot in open system theory, which is the evolution of socio-technical system. Socio-technical system was initially created by Eric Tristan and Fred Emery. Fred Emery and Marilyn Emery are Australian. When they come back to Australia, they continue developing the socio-technical systems and transformed it into open system theory. In fact, 2 years ago, I did a master class with Marilyn Emery. She's 85 years old, and we're also planning to hopefully in November go down to Canberra and meet her again. So maybe we can talk about.
I'm sure it will come up. But I'll put the link to those two aspects, socio-technical system and open system theory, in the show notes for those interested in knowing more. Thank you for sharing that story, Alidad.
No problem. Thanks for the question.
All right, I hope you liked this episode. But before you hit next episode, here's the deal. This podcast is powered by people like you, the members who wanted more than just inspiration. They wanted real tools and real connection to people who are practicing Agile every day. We're talking access to over 700 hours of Agile Gold, CTO level strategy talks, summit keynotes, live workshops, e-courses, deep dive interviews, books, and if you're into no estimates, we got the pioneers of no estimates in those deep dive interviews as well. Agile business intelligence, creating product visions, coaching your product owner courses, you name it. You'll get invites to monthly live Q&As with Agile pioneers and practitioners, plus a private Slack community, which is free of all of that AI slop you see everywhere, and of course, without the flame wars. It's a community of practitioners that want to learn and thrive together. It's the best place to connect with community and learn together. So if this podcast has helped you before, imagine what you will get from this podcast membership. So head on over to scrummastertoolbox.org/membership and join the community that's shaping the future of Agile. And we have so much for you. So check out all the details at scrummastertoolbox.org/membership, because listening is great, it's important, but doing it together, that's next level. I'll see you in the community Slack.
We really hope you liked our show. And if you did, why not rate this podcast on Stitcher or iTunes? Share this podcast and let other Scrum Masters know about this valuable resource for their work. Remember that sharing is caring.